I'm going to run through the cooking functions that are available in Smeg ovens. Your oven may have not all of the functions available in this oven, and the icons may look slightly different, but the way the function works is exactly the same no matter what model of oven. The first function that we're coming to is called Eco. Now this is one that we don't recommend for use in New Zealand particularly. It restricts the power intake of the oven. So in order to get the effect that you want, the browning and the cooking, it's going to take longer to do. The next one along that we come to is called Static in most Smeg ovens. It's what we would call bake from our old ovens. We've got the top element, we've got the bottom element, and there's no fan operating inside the oven. It's good for any traditional type of cooking, usually on a single layer. I like to cook my Christmas cake with this function. The next function we come to, with the dotted line across the top, that's a grill function. This is the same as most ovens' grill functions, except of course now we have the door shut with all cooking functions, including the grill. You can change the temperature. If you just want to lightly brown something, you can drop the temperature down. Next one along is bottom element only. This is good for various things, including finishing something off on the bottom. Perhaps you've cooked a quiche and it's not quite done on the bottom. You don't want any more cooking on the top. So pop the food near the bottom of the oven and the heat from the bottom of the oven will finish the pastry off. It's also the perfect function to use if you're cooking with a bain-marie. This is going to heat the water but not overcook the food that you're putting in the bain-marie. This is fan-assisted static, with the top and the bottom element in the static, but this time we have a fan that's circulating the air within the oven. It's what we would call from our old-fashioned ovens, fan bake. It's good for many types of cooking, for baking, or pies or pastries, anything on a single layer. This is a great function to use. Fan-assisted grill. There's one heat source operating here, and that's the grill. But what happens is the fan is circulating the heat and taking the heat from the grill and moving it further down in the oven. So it means that you can cook foods that you would normally need to turn in the oven, things like sausages and chops, particularly if you put a tray into the oven while you're preheating your oven. It's also a great function for a fruit crumble where the fruit is already cooked. The exact opposite of fan-assisted grill is fan-assisted bottom heat, and the fan is pushing that heat further up in the oven. Really, this should be called a quiche function because that's exactly what it's best for. It's also a really good function for flatbreads and Italian-style thin crust pizzas. This function, known as circular or hot air, this isn't using either of the radiant elements, top or bottom. The fan actually turns in the opposite direction to the previous fan functions. It sucks the air in to the back of the oven, and behind the back of the oven, where you can't see it, there's an element. And then the air is recirculated. This means that wherever you put your food, the hot air that's circulating around it is even. So it means that we can cook on multiple layers. It's especially good for baking. The key thing to remember with this function though is it is more efficient than a traditional cooking function. So when we're baking, we do need to drop the temperature by 20 degrees. We retain the same cooking time because what we really want to avoid is the top of our cakes cooking too hard on the top before the rise has taken place underneath. This is unique to Smeg function. We've taken this hot air function and we've combined it with our browning elements top and bottom. That means that we can cook savoury foods on multiple levels that need browning, and really the best application for this function is cooking a roast meal. Crispy roast potatoes, juicy meat. Use this function, put your meat in the bottom half of the oven. The thermoseal action in the oven will retain the moisture inside the oven, but moisture being heavier than air will sit more in the bottom half of the oven. And if you use the top half of the oven for your potatoes, you'll get super crisp roast-bed potatoes. They're right near the top element, and you'll get beautiful, delicious, juicy meat. The final function we have is circular or hot air plus the grill. Now this is very similar to the fan assisted grill, but this time we have two heat sources. So we have the grill providing heat and we also have the hot air providing heat. This is a great function if you're cooking a fruit crumble where the fruit is raw. You need some decent cooking through the food, but you also want that crispy browning on the top. It's also an ideal function for cooking a roast pork where you need a crispy crackling. To learn more about your Smeg oven, make a booking on our website to meet with one of our cooking technology experts.